Timeline recap. Quirtians, aliens, toss a probe at the Sol system and a very detectable radiation pulse happens. Within a week, the first human Orion drive created, the Torch, is sent to investigate. 5 months later, it reaches the edge of the solar system, the heliopause. It stays there for approximately 2 weeks doing science and alien communication stuff, before heading back to Saturn's moon Titan, where it is planned to arrive at plus 11 months from Pulse. 2 weeks into the return journey, a dude who uploads videos of himself blowing stuff up online manages to accidentally warp himself into the nuclear stockpile of the Torch. It is still unknown how he arrived relatively safely, but he is now a member of the crew. A little over a month into the return trip, the humans connect the Quirtians to the internet, and there's a bit of a culture shock. Greenhouse, the Torch, 8 months after Pulse. Welcome to the greenhouse, I'm Thunder Orsfield. You're the new guy? Kyle nodded. I got assigned here as part of learning the ship's systems. Thunder continued. Honestly, after being assigned to this ship and giving aliens a tour, nothing surprises me anymore. Well, this stuff isn't too complicated. Basically, just a few types of crop irrigation systems. We got aquaponics, aeroponics, and a small area of actual dirt for specific plants which like to grow together. I'll show you around. Stepping into the greenhouse control room, Kyle was met with 5 stations with displays, warning lights, and switches, with a few people with headphones on monitoring them. That's Jimmy, Buster, and Carol. Walking over to the leftmost station, it held a display of densely packed curved rows of plants, arranged in concentric circles. Machines slowly ran along the tracks, spraying plants periodically or harvesting densely packed bushels of apparently ripe produce. He pointed to the section currently being harvested. Over there we've got assorted dark grains. Those were all genetically modified to synthesize vitamins at a higher level and get crushed and added as filler for the most food on the ship. For all of them, the entire plant is edible, although they tend to be pretty bitter if you just eat them by themselves. A few rows behind them were rows of smaller, more delicate-looking plants. That's the flavor area. Garlic, onions, leek, radish, assorted herbs, etc. Comparatively less nutritional value, but they make everything else taste better. Looking over to an area containing huge leaves and large roots, he continued. This section's where a large portion of our overall calories are grown. Those are assorted potatoes, yams, and other tubers. They've been modified to grow extremely quickly, and some produce oil as well as starch, which leads to nearly 4 times increase in the amount of calories generated in a given time. Unfortunately, these can't grow in dirt, or on Earth in general, and require significantly higher CO2 levels to survive. Basically, there's a gradient of CO2 along the arc of the greenhouse, and the plants which grow fastest sit in the highest concentration area. Kyle followed Thunder to another screen. It was another section similar to the aeroponics area, but had a bunch of 1-meter squares of physical dirt instead of dense shelves of plants. A few small saplings were growing in the dirt, as well as some vines. There's the dirt area. It provides us with a small biosphere to start picky crops and provides a home to certain bacteria which are beneficial to some of the plants. Also, we have some plants which really don't work well in aeroponics, like that apple tree and those grapes. It's significantly less food dense than everything else, so it's mainly for biodiversity than anything else. He moved over to the next display, which contained assorted glass tanks with fish and tanks with plants, as well as a dry tank of crickets. There's the recycling system. It's used mainly to convert our biological waste and inedible plant waste into nutrients for the plants. The crickets and the fish eat the waste, then their shit gets used as fertilizer for the aquaponics and dirt areas. They're also our main source of protein. Crickets get crushed and added to potato flour for bread, and the fish are just used as fish. So, wait, is that where our Blackwater goes? Kyle asked. Pretty much. While our shit eventually gets recycled into nutrients, it gets processed chemically to prevent the greenhouse from being contaminated, then ends up in the aquaponics area. We don't deal with chemical production, though. All that is done on Deck 2 next to the fabrication area. Thunder led Kyle to a rack of rubberized hardsuits and self-contained breathers. These are required to enter the greenhouse mechanical area due to the amount of CO2 in the air and the chemicals being sprayed. Over the next 15 minutes, Thunder went over basic safety in the mechanical areas before they suited up. Basically, keep your hands away from moving parts, don't run, don't turn valves without knowing what they do, and wear a positive pressure suit the whole time. Entering the area, Thunger got to work. First, we're going up top to the aeroponics irrigation system. Thunger walked to a chemical cabinet and retrieved a thermos-sized aluminum canister with threads on one side and a handle on the rear. We add these to the water being sprayed on the plants. What's in there anyways? Kyle was intrigued. Thunger looked at the bucket. It's nutrients for plants, but it's a bit toxic, these concentrations. Basically water, ammonium nitrate, hydrazine sulfate, urea, and ammonium phosphate. We add it to this tank over here and add it to the water. The room they were in had a series of 5 tanks next to each other, with a meter of space between them following the curvature of the hole. There were a total of 10 pumps, with 5 running at once and filling the room with a constant humming sound. Thunger pointed at a 1 meter tall and 3 meter diameter barrel-shaped tank, with 4 pipes coming off the side and bottom, each crossing over and feeding into 2 pumps. The pumps then fed into pipes traveling along the rows of plants, as well as a pipe branching off the outlet of the pump, which led directly back to the tank. The tank sat about a meter off the ground, and a staircase led to the top of the tank, where there was a series of canisters poking out. That tank mixes the stuff and keeps it contained properly in 0G. The bottom lines feed into a main and backup pump during normal operation. The lines on the side of the tank are used during 0G, and the tank uses the chemical mixer to provide centrifugal force in order to keep the water along the sides. These canisters go in top and are automatically added into the water. Why don't you take that one out for me? Kyle walked to the top and tried to unscrew the indicated canister. It didn't move whatsoever. Is it locked or what? Thunger grumbled. They don't even lock, damn it. Whoever screwed it in last must have really reefed on it. Kyle watched as Thunger put his canister down and tried to open it. After a few seconds of being unsuccessful, Thunger looked around, spotting something. He went back down to the stairs and walked to a corner of the room. Ha! Here we go. He picked up a wrench with a meter-long pipe slid over the handle and came back. Pausing for a second, he tapped the canister a few times, then put the wrench over the handle and pulled with all of his strength. With a cracking sound, the canister moved, and he pulled it off. Some smooth-brained idiot probably used a wrench to close the fucking thing. Don't do that. Okay. Anyway, here's how the tank is loaded. You open this latch, put the canister upside down into it like this, and then it'll automatically start feeding into the tank. When the canister is empty, it indicates a red circle next to the handle. See? As Thunger loaded the canister into the tank, a fizzing noise emanated from the tank as the canister released the liquid. Okay, while that's doing its thing, let's go switch pumps. Thunger went to a control panel next to the pumps, turned the second one on, let it warm up, then closed a valve leading from the first one and turned the first one off. These pipes leading back to the tank allow the water to be recirculated if the pump is running without sending it anywhere. Keeps the pump cool. They open if the pressure in the pipe goes above normal levels. A loud bang resounded through the room, and the ship shuddered. Thunger yelled obscenities and pulled Kyle with him to the greenhouse control room. What the fuck was that? Jimmy had his headphones off. I don't know. Pressures are normal, machines are functional, and I don't even see any leaks. Nothing's wrong with our system. The intercom broke through. This is the captain. We've had a small hull breach on deck B6. I'm performing an emergency D-spin within 1 hour, so get ready. Buster frowned. Small hull breach, my ass. We felt that all the way up here. Thunder nodded. Anyway, if it doesn't concern us, back to work as usual. Deck B6. The EVA teams were inspecting the deck for any additional damage. During the spin down, a new device was created to protect the EVA team while doing maintenance on the outside of the ship. It was essentially a set of foil skirts which were extended around the counterweight on top of the ship, in order to give it a larger cross-section for shielding the exterior of the ship. In the current configuration, the ship was flying nose first, and counterweight extended in order to offer the most protection against impacts. Katie, Elliot, and Igor were on the outside of B6 looking in. Igor reported. The outer hull breach is circular with the minor tearing around the edges. The interior breach is very warped and torn. The diameter of the exterior hull breach is about 2 meters, and the interior breach has a crack about 5 meters long, running vertically. Recommended course of action is to cut a 6 meter by 6 meter square of the affected area out, then reforge 1 meter by 6 meter sections for the hull and weld it back, including the Whipple shielding repairs. It'll probably take a week. Understood, Igor. I'll get the fabricators up to speed. William sighed. This wasn't a worst-case scenario by any means, but it was still unsettling that there was stuff capable of doing damage to the Whipple shielding, which covered the sides of the ship. He would have to get some solutions to this issue quickly. Contacting the EVA team on the inside of the hull, he hoped for the best. Okay, Bernard, what's the damage? The preliminary results are that it's salvageable, but not great. The section of the magazine which was impacted was completely empty, but the loading system for this section has been heavily mangled. This is going to be a huge mess to repair, but it's not critical to the ship's function. I estimate at least a few weeks. He notified the fabricator deck. This is the captain. The hull's pretty damaged by deck B6. Get ready for a high volume of curved metal work. Also, we need to upgrade the Whipple shielding in some way to prevent this from occurring again. Once the hull is sealed again, we're going to need replacement parts for the Orion's magazine. We'll send you guys the specs once we have more information. With the new information, he decided to let the rest of the crew know the plan. This is the captain speaking. The good news is that the ship is not in critical condition. We are most likely impacted by a large micrometeor. Repairs will take a few weeks, and I intend on bolstering the overall Whipple shielding on the sides of the ship. We will continue to fly without artificial gravity until the problem is resolved, and a solution to these impacts is prepared. What a shit show, he muttered to himself.